Welcome back to my channel. So today we will be continuing our lecture from where we left in the previous lecture. So you might go and see the previous lecture so that you are able to uh, create a link between this lecture and the previous lecture. So I've discussed that how the advent of the Britishers on the Indian subcontinent actually proved disastrous, especially for the Nawab of the Bengals. Okay, why? Because Nawab were having their own authority. Okay, and because of the royal farman or dastak given by the uh, Mughal emperor, what happened that they started misusing the dastaks, okay, and later on we see that how they came in conflict with Nawab Siraj-ud-Daulah, and because of that, it led to the decisive Battle of Plassey. So in this lecture we will see that how the Britishers, they also came in conflict with the other regional powers. That first one is the Marathas, and that with the defeat of the Marathas in the third battle of Panipat in 1761, the Marathas' dream of ruling from Delhi was shattered. Okay, so they wanted to rule from Delhi, but that was shattered. And basically, the Marathas were divided into many states under different chiefs belonging to dynasties such as Sindhya, Holkar, Gaikwad, Bhosle. These chiefs were held together in a confederacy under a Peshwa. Okay, and this has been asked in BPSC also in the Match the column, that who was Peshwa. Okay, so we also see, and the NCERT tells us that the first Anglo-Maratha War ended in 1782 with the Treaty of Salbai. Okay, obviously there was no clear victor. Nobody knew that who has won the battle. Okay, and second Anglo-Maratha War, which was fought between 1803 to 1805, was fought on different fronts. Okay, so what was the result of that? That British gained Odisha and the territories north of the Yamuna River, including Agra and Delhi. Okay, so finally, the third Anglo-Maratha War of 1817 to 1819 crushed the Maratha power. The Peshwa was removed and sent away to the Bittur near Kanpur with a pension. Okay. Now, what happened because of that? The company now had a complete control over the territories south of the Vindhyas. Okay. Now, next is, the NCERT tells us that it is clear from the above that from the early 19th century, the company pursued an aggressive policy of the territorial expansion. Okay, and in the upcoming slides we'll also see that the map of the India. Okay, and we'll see that how aggressively the British has started controlling the Indian territories. So under Lord Hastings, who was Governor General from 1813 to 1823, a new policy of paramountcy was initiated. Now the company claimed that its authority was paramount or supreme, hence its power was greater than that of the Indians. And I think they were also to some extent right in their approach, because we have seen that how in the past they were able to have complete control over the Bengal, how the authority of the Nawabs were completely undermined. Okay, and we also see that how Britishers actually tried to interfere in the internal politics of the Bengal, and that is the reason because they had become superpower. Okay, because of that, they thought that it was their right to annex the Indian states. Okay, so for example, the NCERT says that when British tried to annex the small state of Kittur in Karnataka today, Rani Chinnamma took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. Okay, next is the Britishers' concerns about the Russia, which started in 1830s. So they were fearful that they will come to India. So driven by this fear, the British now wanted to secure their control over the northwest. So because of that, they came in direct conflict with the Afghanistan, and later on we also see that because of the presence of the Maharaja Ranjit Singh in Punjab, they did not dare to annex Punjab, but later on, after his death in 1839, so there were two prolonged war which was fought, and later on we see that even the Punjab kingdom was annexed ultimately in 1849. Now, talking about the final wave of the annexation, which occurred under the Lord Dalhousie, who was Governor General from 1848 to 1856. Okay, so basically he devised a policy that came to be known as Doctrine of Lapse. Okay, so these policies and these Governor Generals under whom the policy came, these are very important factual information which can be asked in the BPSC. So if you want, you can make note of this in your notebook. So doctrine of lapse was nothing. It was declared that if the Indian ruler is not having its own heir, okay, so in that case, one kingdom can be annexed simply by applying the doctrine. For example, Satara, Sambalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur, and Jhansi. All these, regional states were annexed under the Britishers. And later on, the NCERT informs us that the company also took control over the Awadh, and this time the Britishers added an argument that there was misrule or misgovernment by the Nawab of the Bengal, that is Suja-ud-Dawla. And later on, the people of Awadh joined the Great Revolt that broke out in 1857. Now look at the maps, okay, of 1797 and 1840. So the yellow color shows that areas under the British rule, and the red color shows areas not under British rule. And by the 1840, you see that the area under the British rule has increased in Calcutta, Banaras, some parts of the Lucknow, nearby Delhi, and then Bombay, and then few parts of the Goa and Mysuru, and not to mention if nearby Madras, it is a Carnatic area. Okay. So, and by 1857, if you see how many, the heat map shows how many areas were there which came under even the present day Lahore, which is in Pakistan, it also came under the Britishers. Now, if you compare this map with the map of 1840, by this time, they did not dare much to annex Punjab, but in this case, due to the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, you can see that not only they annexed Punjab, but they also annexed Lahore. Now, setting up a new administration. So, Warren Hastings, Governor General from 1773 to 1785, was one of the many important figures who played a significant role in expansion of the company power, and the company had acquired power not only in Bengal but also in the Bombay and Madras. Okay. So now what happened so there was one system of justice was established in 1772, which was so there was two courts which were established. One was a criminal court, Fauzdari Adalat, and a civil court, Diwani Adalat. Okay. So under this, Maulvis and Hindus Pandit interpreted Indian laws for the European district collectors who presided over the civil court. The criminal court was still under the Qazi and Mufti, but under the supervision of the collectors. Okay, so the problem which they faced, the judge faced. So basically, that Brahman Pandit gave different interpretation of the local laws based on the different school of the Dharma Shastra. So what happened that in 1775 they were being told to compile a digest of the Hindu laws. So N.B. Halhed translated this digest into the English, and by 1778 a code of Muslim law was also compiled for the benefit of the European judges. And under the Regulating Act of 1773, we see that the Supreme Court of Calcutta was established. Okay, and then talking about the company army. So here NCERT has actually compared or mentioned about how the Mughal Sultanate they had their army system, and how they used to have savars and foot soldiers. And later on we see that by the 18th century Mughal successor state like Awadh and Banaras started recruiting peasants into their armies and training them into a professional soldier. And also during the times of the Mughals, they never felt the need to have a large professionally trained army, But later on we see that with the advent of the Europeans, and especially the conflict which happened between the Dutch, the Portuguese, and the Britishers, and also the developments which were taking place in the Europe. Because of that, the European powers they have made a significant amount of changes in the way they were hiring the army. Okay, and also by 1820s, from the 1820s, we see that the cavalry requirement of the company's army declined because the British Empire was fighting in Burma, Afghanistan, and Egypt, where soldiers were armed with muskets and matchlocks. So they were having advanced arms and ammunitions. So that is the reason the cavalry requirement was downgraded. And then it also talks about that how the British soldiers, sorry, the soldiers which were hired from India, they were having European style of training, drills, and discipline that regulated their life far more than before. And now the NCERT is concluding that that East India Company was transformed from a trading company to a territorial colonial power that we have seen. And because of the new advancement in the technology like steam technology, so earlier it was taking maybe 6 or 7 months to reach to India, but now within 2 or 3 weeks they were able to come to the India. Because of that the British settlement grew by leaps and bounds in India. Okay, and by 1857 the company came to exercise the direct rule of over 63% of the territory was under the British rule, and 78% of the population of the Indian subcontinent. So basically, the East India Company had virtually the whole of the India under its control. So that's all about it, about this lecture. So we'll be covering the next chapter, and the chapter would be let me check, ruling the countryside. So thank you so much for watching the lecture, and hope to see you soon in the next lecture. Thank you.